Ambassador Vexthera stood before the assembled war council of the Zephyrian Empire, her silver-scaled hands trembling slightly as she faced the dozen military commanders seated around the obsidian table. The holographic displays showed Earth rotating slowly in the center of the room, its blue oceans and white clouds deceptively peaceful. Honored commanders, Vexthera began, her voice carrying the weight of decades spent studying humanity. I stand before you today not as a coward, but as someone who has witnessed firsthand what these creatures are truly capable of. General Chromax, his forearms crossed dismissively, leaned back in his biochair. Ambassador, our intelligence reports show humans possess primitive nuclear weapons and basic space travel. Our fleet could glass their planet within cycles. What could possibly concern you? Vexthera activated her personal datapad, and the hologram shifted to show various human historical scenes. 20 rotations ago, I was assigned to their world for deep reconnaissance. What I discovered there still haunts my sleep cycles. The first image showed ancient human battlefields. These beings have been at war with themselves for their entire recorded history. Not for resources, not for territory expansion like civilized species, but for abstract concepts. They call them ideologies, religions, honor. They will die for ideas, commanders. Ideas. Commander Thale, known for her tactical brilliance, frowned. Many species have belief systems, Ambassador. Not like this, Vexthera replied, switching to footage of human soldiers in various conflicts. I watched a human female throw herself on an explosive device to save her squad mates. I witnessed a human male charge a fortified position alone, knowing he would die, simply to buy his comrades 30 seconds of advantage. These are not isolated incidents. This behavior is systemic among their military forces. The room fell silent as the implications began to sink in. Vexthera continued, but their individual sacrifice pales compared to their collective insanity. Observe. The hologram now showed mushroom clouds from nuclear tests. In their 20th century, they developed weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization. Instead of using them to unite under a single banner as any rational species would, they built more. Thousands more. They pointed them at each other for decades, balancing on the precipice of self-annihilation, and somehow called it peace. Admiral Corvin shifted uncomfortably. Surely you exaggerate, Ambassador. I wish I did, Vexthera said grimly. But there's worse. They have a concept they call mutually assured destruction. They reasoned that if everyone could destroy everyone else, no one would start a war. And it worked. Only humans would create stability through the promise of universal death. She gestured, and the display showed human space programs. Look at how they reached for the stars. They strapped themselves to controlled explosions, missiles that fail catastrophically 9 times out of 10 in early development. They knew the risks. They went anyway. Not for conquest or resources initially, but for curiosity. For the simple desire to see what was there. General Chromax was no longer dismissive. What are you suggesting, Ambassador? I'm suggesting that any species insane enough to achieve peace through terror, to explore space by riding barely controlled explosions, and to routinely sacrifice individuals for abstract concepts is not a species we want to make desperate. Vexthera's voice dropped to a whisper. We've been monitoring their entertainment broadcasts. Do you know what they consider heroic? Last stands. Impossible odds. Sacrificing everything for the greater good. She paused, letting that sink in. If we attack Earth, we won't be fighting a conventional enemy. We'll be fighting a species that considers dying for their cause to be the highest honor. A species that will turn their own sun into a weapon if cornered. A species that spent decades preparing to destroy their own world rather than surrender it to enemies. The War Council sat in stunned silence. My recommendation, Vexthera concluded, is that we establish peaceful contact and trade relations, because the alternative isn't conquest. It's unleashing a force of nature that won't stop until either they're all dead, or we are. And given their history of impossible victories through sheer determination and acceptable losses. She let the sentence hang unfinished, but every commander in the room understood the implication. Some wars were too dangerous to win.